Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Every Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and simulcast on CJ Mars Radio and 365 Live. And tonight, for the first time, we are live on the Opperman Report Spreaker channel, broadcasting to you live, direct from our own broadcasting little hub in the world here, my own, whatever you call it. Okay, coming up next week, Thursday nights, we're going to be on shakeandwake.com at 6:30 p.m., and my daughter Vic's going to be on there as well on Saturday afternoon. So I really want to take my hat off to Rick and Annie over at shakeandwake.com for their debut broadcast tonight. God bless them. I can't wait to hear what's going on over there. Okay, hey, just got a note from good old Nighthawk from Revolution Radio, and he wants to remind me, like I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget something, right? That I got a memory like an elephant. Revolution Radio is under attack. They're having a lot of problems over there. Their YouTube channel was shut down by YouTube. They think it has to do with some kind of broadcasting of some police channels, live police channels over there going on in Ferguson, Missouri. So the new hey, can everybody mute up? I can hear you typing. Their new YouTube channel is Revolution Radio #2. It's all one word solid, Revolution Radio #2. And that'll be the new Revolution Radio YouTube channel. So everybody has to go there, and they got to hook up with that. Revolution Radio 2 on YouTube, and that should get you there. Okay, and you got to subscribe, okay, because that's where everything's going to be from now on, okay? Now, let's see, back to our show. What do we got here? We got my notes. I never forget my notes. Okay, you can also find my shows on the Opperman Report YouTube channel. Might as well mention that, right? Spreaker.com, and soon to be iHeartRadio. We should be on iHeartRadio in 2 weeks. Okay, so everybody keep an eye out for that. Don't forget, this is a listener-sponsored station. FreedomSlips.com is listener-sponsored. We have no corporate sponsorship, so if you like what you hear, you got to go to FreedomSlips.com and click on the donate button to keep that station afloat and keep them running and keep them up and going. Okay, tonight we have a big guest. We have Hart Fisher from the Hart Attack. And this guy is an outrageous, I hate to call him an outrageous character, but he really is, you know. I've been looking him up. And we found Hart from Kif Davis, who's our producer, who's our man on the street, who's our guy out there confronting people on the street in Portland, Oregon. And we found Hart Fisher through Kif Davis, who's going to be joining us later on. But Hart Fisher's a fascinating guy. I've been looking up his YouTube channels. The guy's a mixed martial artist. He's a radio host, owns his own horror movie production company. Unbelievable guy. He's been on Jerry Springer. This guy's been out there and done stuff. Hey, Hart, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm damn glad to be here, Ed.
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. So can you tell the audience about yourself a little bit and about your background, what you're doing now?
Well, people have seen me most recently in the Nat Geo special on the 90s. The 90s, the last great decade. And I was on there talking about my comic book that I'd done about Jeffrey Dahmer. That was my first claim to fame. I was a comic book publisher and a prominent First Amendment advocate. And I have been the publisher of the only cartoonist in America to go to jail for his artwork, Michael Diana. And also I have some of my work is banned in Oklahoma as obscene material when I did it for Danzig's comic book company, the Rock Guy Danzig, with A Taste of Cherry in Veronica #4, which I co-wrote with Christian Moore. And now I am doing a horror channel. I own American Horrors, which is the world's only 24 hours, 7 days a week, completely free to watch worldwide horror channel. It's currently streaming at filmon.com, and they have over 600 channels, and they're free to watch. And then I do a radio show, Hart Attack, with Josh Hadley, and I've had Keith on there several times because Keith is a sharp guy, and I've really been happy to get to know Keith. He's got his facts straight, and he's right on the front lines fighting the pedophiles in our government.
Oh, yeah, he's an actual hero of mine, let me tell you, because here's a guy that puts his butt on the line and goes out there in the street and puts his butt where his mouth is. And he goes in front of city council, and confronts the mayor.
I know exactly what that's like. I've been doing the same thing here in Los Angeles. I've been part of the team that defeated the Hollywood Millennium Project, in which these real estate developers are trying to build a tower on an active fault line that is so dangerous that it would have split the building in half. And City Hall here in Los Angeles is completely bought and paid for by corporate interests, especially interests like Goldman Sachs has been buying up LA City bonds. And I've been covering the beat with criminal justice in what's happening with our politicians and how they're bought out by minority groups like these corporations and other groups that are like trying to game the system. And so I'm recognized around City Hall in Los Angeles. There's a particular City Hall councilman that I really have tied horns with named Jose Huizar, who's building a poison park right now in Highland Park. This guy, you got to love this guy. This guy is breaking his arm, patting himself on the back. He's already got one autistic child. He has another child with leukemia. And now he's creating a park that is built on a gas station. And it is toxic earth. And the city has not cleaned it up. And they're spending about $3 million to make a park that's all toxic, that's going to be dangerous for children. And this guy can't wait to congratulate him on this stuff. So these are the kinds of issues that are important to me. I'm a backyard politics guy, and I also talk about your politics on the main stage.
Amazing. My producer Ann is an architect. And she's probably doing a backflip right now hearing about the story you're telling about this construction thing.
Oh, it's horrible, Ed. This guy Jose Huizar has been behind a housing development in which City Hall has given out fire code waivers. How do you like this? They're giving waivers to fire code safety laws, and they're giving waivers to earthquake safety laws, and waivers to environmental impact studies on these giant construction projects happening here where I live in Highland Park. And right now there's a shooting going on. They've been trying to sell Highland Park as some kind of – they paid off the LA Times to say our local street is the hippest street in L.A., and they paid off the L.A. Weekly to say we have the best neighborhood for a family to live in when we're number 3 in crime per capita. There was a shooting just before I came on the air, like half a mile from my house, and the homicide rate is going through the roof. But since Obama went to college at Occidental College down the street, the real estate people are trying to redevelop everything at a crushing pace in Highland Park.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
And so this is what I'm fighting. This is what I'm fighting at. This is what I'm known for at City Hall, is about making – and these are family homes that they're trying to build with fire code violations already in the building plans. And then they've got an issue where they're trying to build these buildings on toxic land. They were parking lots that have been designated specifically for parking because they're toxic. They've been in the automobile industry there, and they've got, decades and decades and decades of toxic drippings from cars, and they're going to build family housing there. It's called the Highland Park Transit Village, and those are the kinds of things I got involved in fighting and getting involved in local politics here in Highland Park.
Well, what do you do actually? Do you organize demonstrations, or you just talk about it on the radio show?
Well, I talk about it on the radio show, and at first it was just a matter of I started doing Hart Attack as like therapy, so I could yell and scream about the things that were bothering me. But then we found that through the power of the radio show, we actually were able to help some people. I helped a friend of mine save her house from a predatory bank that was trying to steal her home. We helped another friend get her money back from a bank where she wasn't even a Verizon customer, and Verizon illegally pulled money out of her account. And the bank was dilly-dallying about getting her money back until we got involved and we started calling them up. And that's my bent, is populist politics, things like we got to take care of our veterans. We have a society of constant castration of men. We have a society in which I have to worry about what word I say instead of being more focused on how I communicate my message. What's my message? And instead I got to worry about what naughty word I say. And those are the kind of things I'm involved in with the radio. When you ask me what do, I organize people. I'm really good at putting together a group of people. I've been flown out to Tokyo to give a lecture on team building and leadership.
Okay, so hey, how can we hear the Hart Attack?
Hart Attack is on it's on jackaloperadio.com, and you can also get the episodes at 1201beyond.com, and then you can find us on, I believe it's soundstream.com.
Soundstream? Oh, okay, Soundstream. Okay, I'm not sure which one that is. Okay.
Or a SoundCloud, SoundCloud.com.
SoundCloud, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the.
That's it. Yeah. We're up on SoundCloud.com, and we've had amazing guests. We had on Captain Young, who is a 33 police veteran, who came on our program to talk about how these ghost bike lanes they're throwing up everywhere have actually really hurt traffic. They have increased police response times. They've made things more dangerous for emergency responders. And you have 1% of the road users are gaming the system. And $3 million has been spent from a nonprofit group out of Virginia to push these bike lanes into neighborhoods where they don't belong, into streets they don't belong, like Class 2 highways. And here in town, it's a no-bid contract, and it started at $40,000 a mile, and now it's $85,000 a mile to put paint on the street.
Oh,
so
wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm really involved in corruption. I'm interested in political corruption, where our tax dollars are being misspent. Things like I'm working in entertainment, and I can tell you with all certainty that the Obama administration was disgusting in the fact that they blew $300 million on a website that didn't work, when we know that it's not a video site. It's not streaming video. It doesn't take $300 million to make a website, guys. You don't even need $1 million to make a website.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's like an order form, basically. And now, when can people hear your show live? And do you take callers?
We go live on Saturday nights. We really don't take callers because we record during the week as if live.
Okay.
And I record with my co-host Josh Hadley, who does a show called, well, I can't say it on the air, What the F.
Okay.
And his show, I started off as a segment on there, being the angry, yelly guy. You bastards! How could you do this? And I got involved in politics. I started going to neighborhood council meetings, and I started organizing people and getting people to talk and just trying to get them so they're not so angry. What I see the man doing and the government doing and corporations doing is they're all getting us to fight each other. Yeah. They're getting men to fight with women. They're getting women to go after the men. They're getting the minorities to fight with the white folks to fight with these folks. And while we're all fighting amongst ourselves, they're buying out our politicians, they're buying out our law system, and they're ruining the country.
Hey, that reminds me real quick. I want to give a shout out to one of our old guests, a member of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, the original Black Panther Party, Lorenza Kumbawa Irvin, who is organizing right now down in Memphis. It's coming up on Monday. It's called an informational picket line against police brutality in Memphis, Tennessee. It's on Monday, August 18th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and it's in front of 201 Poplar, Memphis Police Headquarters. And if you want to get a hold of Lorenzo, it's organize.b.hood@gmail.com. And the link is up on my Opperman Report Facebook page if you want to check that out. So now,
I'd like to check that out. That sounds pretty cool.
He's a great guest, too, man. The guy's fascinating, man. He hijacked a plane to Cuba. And instead of that, they put him in prison for 15 years. But there was such an activism that they got him out after 15 years. They gave him 2 life sentences, and he got out in 15 years. Fascinating guy.
Wow, that sounds like a story I want to hear.
Yeah, great guy too, man. And he's 70 years old, and he's still out there organizing, like yourself, Well,
a big part of it is you got to keep your head. If you're going to be politically active, they're going to try to get you mad. They're going to try to bully you. Dealing with this, I call it the 1%er ghost bike lane issue that hijacked the streets of my neighborhood and created gridlock. It's driven businesses under. As I've gotten involved, I've been cyber trolled, cyber bullied. Someone has taken a crap on my car. There's somebody vandalizing my automobile. They have been sabotaging the car and messing with the speedometer. Other people that have been involved have been harassed and have had vandalism happen to them. An editor of the local paper, he had his tire knifed by, these ghost bike lane activists. And it's really interesting how you think something's a simple thing, but then you find out that the same tactics that are used by corporations on a large scale, like the trolling that's happening online with paid political trolls that are going after net neutrality on behalf of AT&T and Verizon and others of that ilk, you're finding that you really are having more and more of a hard time figuring out who's a real person online, who's a real supporter, because they go on and they have sock puppets. And the sock puppets are fake personalities that one person is paid to operate for a political cause. And I've been seeing that happen a lot in my neighborhood, and it seems like they're doing it over big issues like the BP oil spill or police brutality all the way down to freaking bike lane.
Yeah, but like you said, what you said was like $85,000 a mile?
Yeah, in Oregon it costs $5,000 a mile.
Yeah,
so you tell me, where's the kickback? And then the company that got the bid, it's a no-bid contract. And if you've worked for the state or you've worked for the city, you understand that most city contracts and state contracts, there's a bidding system, and it goes to the lowest bidder. So when you see these insider deals, and you see the money going up. In 6 months, it went from 40,000 a mile to 85.
Yeah, but look, when you got that kind of money, obviously that's a big business, and they're going to want to shut you up, and they have a budget to go after you.
And they really have. They've got paid political opponents that these pundits, the gentleman who operates a thing called the Boulevard Sentinel has been harassed relentlessly. It's one of the reasons I got involved in the game. I didn't like the way I saw old folks being bullied. It really was a lot of ageism, a lot of anti-handicap sentiment. This whole issue with these bike lanes. The bike lanes are nice, but they're not a real form of transportation. And it's easier for the man to control you if you're on a bike. If I get kicked out of my house, I have shelter in my car. I can drive someplace. I can get out of the city. When you're on a bike, you're on a leash. There's no shelter there. I've never heard of a dude getting laid on his bike. It doesn't work that way. Why are they pushing this agenda on us to make us more easily controlled, to remove things from us that can help our lives, and to create this gridlock? Here in Los Angeles, it's happening all over the city, and it's even hurt their number one industry, filmmaking, because they've been putting down like these green lanes, and they're losing money in this town. A lot of jobs are disappearing because of these ghost bike lanes for 1% of the riders on the road. What's the agenda here? I'd love to know. I'd like to know, what is the plan? Why are they trying to force us onto bicycles?
That's really interesting you would bring that up, because there's this new thing in New York where they have these parked cars that you could go and you could like rent them for a little tiny trip, so that people don't have to own cars. Are you familiar with this? Yeah. And there's like two big giant companies that are doing this. And you're right. Why would they want to encourage something like that, to take away our cars? Well, you're right. When you get homeless, you can go live in your car.
Yeah, and not only that, but everybody has injuries. I do martial arts, and I tweak my knee, I tweak out my ankle, I've broken a rib, I've had my wrist broken, I've broken a bone in my hand. So you're injured. You're not going to be able to go. It's really elitist and healthist, because not everybody can get on a bike. My wife's a cancer survivor, and one of her legs is swollen up twice its normal size because she's fighting an issue with lymph collection from losing some of her lymph nodes in her torso. So for her, the idea of she can't even get on a bike and ride around, and these people are creating traffic jams in the area. And what they've done also is they have made it more dangerous for emergency responders. The fire department has come out against these plans. The police department has come out against these plans. So why is City Hall pushing it when the residents have come out against it? And they kept trying to sneak them in. So I use the bike lane issue as an example of how the system works, how the nuts and bolts go together, how you're being manipulated, how they're doing the game, because they're using the same game for a bike lane that they're doing to make the garbage contracts all open up, so now you can have cronyism on your garbage contracts. We're seeing this corruption happen nationwide. Our country isn't broke. It's completely corrupt and raided. The government won't even investigate Medicare fraud unless you've stolen $500,000.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. There's plenty of money.
There's money. It's just
stolen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's being ripped off. And you get involved in investigations. We have a guy that worked with Hart Attack and with American Horrors named Fred Wolf, who's an interrogations expert and was a PI and was a cop in L.A. And, he taught me quite a bit about how things work.
Oh, yeah. It's really corrupt out there. And as long as you're in with the club, you can get away with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also you threw a shout out. I'm going to throw a shout out to Burl Barr, who hosts True Crimes Uncensored. And Burl Barr and Don Waldman are two guys in the true crime world that they walk a lot of your beat, Ed, and they cover a lot of interesting topics, and they got me involved in true crime.
Oh, well, yeah, well, good. Put me in touch with them. We'll bring them on the show.
Yeah, Burl's a great, amazing true crime writer. I urge people to look him up, B-A-R-E-R, Burl Barr. And, hell, I can't believe I'm on your show. I'm really happy to be on here because I feel like it's guys like us that have to talk, because the mainstream media is bought out. I'm a guy who's been on the talk shows. I've been on Larry King, Sally Jesse, Jerry Springer. I've been in Time Magazine, Tattooed Savage. I've been on Discovery Channel's The Verminators. I've been on Eon OJ. I've been on all these shows, and I've been bought and sold in many different ways. I've been on CNN Headline News. I've been in documentary Murder by Numbers. I'm in a new documentary right now called Serial Killer Culture, all about true crime culture. So I've been involved in these, and I'm very aware of how these stories are manipulated and have a point. There's a propaganda point to what Time Magazine is writing. Why is Time Magazine promoting Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton is a dead horse in the race. I was at a party and found out that the people throwing the party had worked in financing Obama's campaign, and they were all talking about Hillary. And I thought, how out of touch are you people with regular Americans? Hillary is a no-win, and she is a horrendous person to even consider as a presidential candidate. Look how she handled Benghazi. She folded under pressure. You need to be questioned. Oh, I fell and hit my head, so therefore, poor me, little lady, I'm not going to have to testify. Are you kidding me? This is a court of law, lady. You got to testify. Well, you're not above the law.
Are you one of those people that believe there's a difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party?
No, I don't. I used to, but I can see, especially in the last Democrat National Convention and the last Republican convention, when they showed the old mayor of L.A., Antonio Villagrosa, who cheated on his wife multiple times, while mayor. And he came on and they did the whole thing about the policy of supporting Israel. And they said, all who are in favor of this party platform and support our policies with Israel, go yay. Crickets. Then they go, everybody again say nay. And you hear this roar, nay, nay. And then he goes, okay, the yays have it. Yeah. This is on YouTube. People can watch this. And they show the same thing at the Republican National Committee. Same thing. Everybody who's for our stance on Israel, say yay. Crickets. Nothing. Then they go, everybody opposed, say nay. Nay! A roar of nays. And then they go, okay, the yays have it. That tells you right there, they're bought and paid for. All of our politicians are bought and paid for. Look at Bobby Jindal in Louisiana giving BP a free pass. We have families. Our service members live in Louisiana. We have Navy guys living in Louisiana, and they're unable to sue BP for their oil spill. They're unable to go to court and collect their revenues due for the damages to their property and their towns and their homes. But Bobby Jindal just automatically gives them a get-out-of-jail-free card when nobody even asked. Who's bought and paid for? It's right in our faces.
Oh, yeah. I had Cynthia McKinney on my show a couple of times.
Okay.
And I was asking, I says, how do they approach you? How do they pay you off? How does it work, And she goes, oh, well, Israel, the Israeli lobby, they send over a fax, and you just have to sign the bottom, and they say they'll support you and send you all this money as long as you agree to support everything they want. It's not even like they take you out to dinner and they get you drunk first, man. They send over a fax, and you just sign it, and you're in.
Oh, yeah. I've been involved in this whole net neutrality battle because it's important to us, you as a broadcaster, Ed, me as a broadcaster. I have my horror channel online so I could hit the widest possible audience I could and make it free. That's one of the things I like about FilmOn.com. Film On is owned by crazy billionaire Alki David. Alki has been trying to burst into the American market, but they've locked him out. All of our major channels are owned by 6 major corporations. Yeah. And so Alki is a rabble-rouser, and he is a gentleman backed with a lot of money. He has lawsuits with Fox. He has lawsuits with CBS pointing out their hypocrisies. And so he's locked out, and it's all about money. They don't want him making this service so we can communicate with each other, so guys like me can have a channel and compete with FearNet. My number one competition in horror went off the air July 31st. So I'm dancing on air. I'm happy. I don't have any competition in that world. And I went into the politics because I was going to do a news channel on American horrors, but the news stories were so horrible, so frightening, it was distracting from the horror films.
The audience
if you can imagine that.
It's too horrifying.
It was too horrifying, so that's why I went to the radio, and we have just found that they're trying to lock it up. They want to control political speech. So it's very important for guys like you and I to be fighting to keep net neutrality, to keep those. They want to make it so rich people have a fast pipeline and poor people got a slow pipeline.
Okay, wait.
Does that sound good to you, Ed?
Before the break, explain to people what net neutrality is.
Net neutrality is a policy by our government and by the world involving the web in which they say everyone will have equal access to the web, meaning that a giant corporation like AT&T or let's say Comcast, which owns NBC Universal. Comcast held up Netflix and said, hey, you guys got to pay us more money, or else, gee, your Netflix on demand is going to get bogged down if they're on our Comcast internet system. So now they're creating a separate taxation of Netflix. Netflix's properties should be equally able to be streamed as Hulu because Comcast had an interest in Hulu. So without net neutrality, Hulu can get a higher priority in the pipeline than Netflix will. And so they're holding everybody up and making them pay. Why? Because people are canceling their cable. Because cable sucks right now. These channels stink. They're doing reality TV on every channel because they don't have to pay the writers. It's all a cheap money grab and power grab. So the net neutrality makes it even for us. It makes it even for everybody so that Ed Oppenheimer's show is streamed at the same rate as Huffington Post.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And what they want to do to net neutrality is they want to throw it away. And they want to turn it into a fast lane and a slow lane. And people with money get the fast lane. And people with no money, well, they get the bitter end of the stick, don't they?
Yeah, already even, I got like the lowest bandwidth package available, man. I can barely afford that just to keep that floating.
Well, they want to make it hard for us to talk to each other. We're in a position where we're able to talk about politics in a way that we as humanity have never been able to talk to each other like this. And that's why the corporations have created sock puppets. It's why they've created these cyber trolls, paid trolls. Like in the net neutrality argument, there's a writer at Vice magazine, and Vice has been writing about the net neutrality issue. And so there are people that are paid to go in the comments section and tell you they're aping the talking points of AT&T or Verizon, but they don't let the public know that they're paid to say these things. So the public thinks, oh, man, maybe I should rethink my position about this. Oh, man, gosh, maybe I should rethink my position about what they're saying because this person's, there's obviously a lot more people saying these negative things than these positive things, but they're really just paid fake people. There's a woman named Miss High she admitted, I'm being paid by the broadband industry as a consultant, but I'm not getting paid to do public appearances or anything like that. No, not at all. That's just, I'm just going on for myself. I'm on your show. No one's paying me. I'm here to get an agenda across, to discuss what is happening in my country that's bothering me. That's why I'm here. No one's paying me. I'm here because I love America and I want it to be a better place.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. Now, how did you first get, because you were talking about all this stuff, how you got on Jerry Springer and all that kind of stuff like that. Now, that's how you first got famous, right?
Yeah, I was a kid. I'd just gotten out of college, and I was at the University of Illinois. I just got a degree in art, and my final year of school, I started my comic book company, Boneyard Press. And I was a horror fan back then, and my life was pretty violent. Horror has helped me to deal with the real-life violence I've dealt with. I've had murder, rape, all kinds of horrible shit happen in my life. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. If you're a fan of the show Gangland, you would know that more episodes are set in Chicago than any other city, at least by 3-1.
So, and a Boneyard Press, is that still in existence?
No, I got out of comics in 2004. I started publishing books, and I started my company with a book called Dark Angel and a character called Bill the Bull. And it was about Dark Angel was about a serial killer from his own point of view. Before there was ever a Dexter, I was doing that.
Oh, right.
And Bill the Bull was like a half-man, half-thug, alcoholic guy for hire in Chicago. And so the comics started, and then I did a book on Jeffrey Dahmer, a bio book.
That was it.
And that was the big one. That hit. A reporter in Milwaukee, you got to love this douchebag. This guy went to the store, he bought the comic book, then he went to the victims' families' homes, and he ambush interviewed them with the book at their front doors. Yeah, a real prince there. Now, my book condemns the media and condemns how the mass media has portrayed serial killers and condemns specifically how they packaged and sold Jeffrey Dahmer. So they turned around and made it me. I was an honor roll kid. I was a kid who went to a super smart high school. I got a degree in art, and they portrayed me as a Satan-worshiping thug, and I'm more of an agnostic than anything, and I think the devil's for losers. So that's how I ended up. I ended up on these talk shows, and I found that the only way for me to defend my reputation and for me to defend myself from the lies being told about me and my work was to go on the talk shows. I would go on the E channels for the entertainment news, and they do their wrap up. And I was on the E channel, and what these guys would do is they would edit. They'd go, what is it that horror people like about Boneyard Press? And I'll give them an answer. Then they'll take that answer from that question, and on the air they make it seem like, what is it that people like about the Jeffrey Dahmer comic book? And so now it's not a true answer. They're manipulating it so that they could get what they want, which is to create a stir. And there was a protest march on my home. The victim's family sued me. I went forward, and I had lots of problems in the comic industry. This really affected my personal life. My mother worked for the Department of Public Aid, and it affected her job. It affected her ability to do her job, all because some TV people wanted to sell more orange juice. And I nailed Sally Jesse Raphael with that simple fact within a minute and a half of being on her show, which got me kicked off of doing Donahue.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, at one point, you did lose one of these lawsuits, right, where they wanted to auction off your possessions in your apartment?
No, not my apartment. I lived in a house at that point in time, the last house on the right. And I was living there with some roommates, and so I initially lost the lawsuit because my lawyer, well, first off, I lost the suit because the judge didn't like the fact that I came representing myself. If I could tell anybody at home anything, never represent yourself in court. Ever. I got screwed. Every time I've been in court and I didn't have proper legal representation, I got hammered. Every time I've been in court with proper legal representation, I have triumphed. Because I beat Marvel Comics in a court of law over copyright and trademark infringement.
Yeah, these judges, they like to see their friends out there getting work,
This judge was pissed off at me, so he ruled for the defendants. He made me pay them $1,500 in order to be able to reopen the case and bring a lawyer back. At the time, I had just gotten out of college. I had a degree in art. I didn't really have any money. And so what these victims' families had done in this ambulance-chasing lawyer, they decided that they're going to win. They're going to set a legal precedent with a small publisher with no money so they could go after the big publishers with the real money. Unfortunately, they picked the wrong guy from the south side of Chicago. If you start running on the south side of Chicago, you're going to run for the rest of your life. So you learn how to stand your ground. You learn how to stand up for yourself no matter what the strangers say on the sideline. You got to be true to yourself and what you're really all about.
All right, great, man. We're going to take a little break now, okay? We're with Hart Fisher, the host of Hart Attack, which is an online radio show. You can find it on SoundCloud. He's also the owner and operator of American Horrors, his own film company. When we get back, I want to get into this whole thing about some of these shows, like, because you were on Jerry Springer,
Yep.
And like how they're scripted. I want to get into the whole thing, man. How they bring you in there, they kind of seduce you to come in. And
I would love to talk about that, Ed. I would love to break it down for you because I've broken it down in the past, and actually I have a video on YouTube from my Sally Jesse Raphael appearance where I break down a fight that happened and how the producers made the fight happen and how it didn't show up on the air. So, yeah, I'm dying to talk about that.
Definitely want to get into all that. So we're going to have a nice little break here. So I'm going to read some commercials. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that the Revolution Radio YouTube channel is down, and their new channel is called Revolution Radio 2, and that's at www.youtube.com/user/Revolution Radio 2. And how you're going to find that is you go to YouTube and you can search for Freedom Slips Rev Radio, and that should bring you to it. And get there. I'm going to have a link on my blog, the Opperman Report, and that's how you can subscribe to that. There's already 42 subscribers, so they're actually they're getting some traffic over there. And don't forget, if you want to support freedomslips.com, you got to go to freedomslips.com. Go find the donate button and donate, because I understand they're struggling for money over there. Let's see. Tonight's show is brought to you by Pacific West Bamboo. Everybody knows Amanda over at Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. They're your number one source for timber construction and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, where our man Kif Davis holds court. and they're servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. Their Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. Their email is demroots@oppermail.com, and they can and do ship nationwide. I was chatting with Amanda earlier today, and they're talking about making beer out of bamboo. They can make beer out of bamboo, and she's looking into that. So who knows what'll come from that. Okay, and then we got Mike Gray over at infinityhomeplans.com. Mike Gray's a great guy, a great supporter of the show, and you can check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models and renderings, and more. That's Mike Gray over at infinityhomeplans.com. Okay, now, my next sponsor, is this really cool group of women down in Mexico. Fascinating. I got some new ad copy. Our new sponsor is a jewelry production cooperative of village women in the southern Mexican state of Guerrero. For the most part, the family members of these women are in the United States in the status of illegal workers, and they have now published a book of authentic handwritten letters addressed to their husbands, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, their boyfriends. These passionate letters have been translated to English so everybody can get a feeling for who these people really are. Maybe it will be surprising to some listeners that in every letter, in one way or another, begs the loved ones to come back to Mexico. This state in Mexico, Guerrero, is there's only 3 million people who live there, and out of that, 800,000 of the citizens of this state in Mexico live in the United States as illegal aliens, and they send their money back over there to support this little state there in Mexico. And these women, they have a website. It's Revolucion Mexicana. First of all, Revolucion is spelled with a C, Revolucion. Then it's dash Mexicana. Then it's .mx. Then it's /wetback-world. Okay, now that's what they made. I don't mean to insult these people, but that's the website they created. And you can go to this website. Okay, it's a free new website. And if you follow the links on that website, you can order their book from Amazon. They've written a book called New World Mexican Women, and it's about how to make Mexican jewelry, and about their book that these women have written to really beg their husbands and their grandfathers and their brothers and sons to come back to Mexico after working over there in the United States. Okay, don't forget emailrevealer.com. Okay, emailrevealer.com. If you need to locate somebody, you need an asset search investigation. You need to you suspect your spouse is cheating online. You go to emailrevealer.com, and we can trace their email address back to online dating websites and catch them cheating online. But tonight we have Hart Fisher from the Hart Attack report, a mixed martial artist, owner of this horror film company here. What's it called again? It is called American Horrors, and it's a free film channel. You can watch it. It's on FilmOns.com, and you can find them over there. And it's a free horror. What do you have? You have your own film crew?
Well, essentially what we are is American Horrors is a 24-hour, 7 days a week horror television channel. It was my wet dream as a kid growing up. You know, I always wanted to have my very own horror channel. One of those things like you wish you could program your favorite films, and now I have that. We've been on the air for over 3 years, and I tell you straight up, we are the best horror channel on the air. And when I mean a horror channel, it's a TV channel. Just like you turn on WGN or you turn on HBO, we're just like that. We have feature films, we have music videos, we have short horror films, and we have our own in-house generated programming. Like we have our own paranormal investigation show coming to our airwaves in the fall, Mission Terror. We've got a really cool movie review show, Fright Asylum, with Woody Mex, who I think is the best horror review guy on the air. And we have True Crimes with Burl Barr getting ready to come up on a second season. We have the American Horrors TV show. We have, Angela's Trailer Park. We got a lot of great stuff on the network, really, and we really focus on like VHS horror because I'm really bored with women tortured in a basement. I'm not interested in that. Saw's kind of boring for me.
Yeah.
Just people getting carved up with, it's just boring. I like real horror films with suspense, and I like all kinds of horror. We got a really good horror host show called Saturday Fright Special that's pretty cool with Scare Wolf on Saturdays. So basically what we are is we're the horror channel that you turn on and you leave on all day if you're a fan. And you can watch us for free on your iPhone, your iPad, your PC, and we just opened up our airwaves to commercials, but our films are not broken up by commercials, and that's filmon.com. Go down to filmon.com and watch now.
There you go. And we have a link to that on the Opperman Report blog. Okay, now tell us, now you go and you start this Jeffrey Dahmer comic book, right? And then you start bringing you on these shows. Now what happened? The bookers were contacting you, or you went out and you contacted them? Bring us through the whole process.
Well, the whole process was very strange because I didn't expect anything to happen. I mean, I'm just a guy out of college. I was a bouncer at a bar called Mabel's. You know, I'm teaching Taekwondo. I just got out of college with my art degree, and I'm living the dream doing comic books. And a friend of mine suggested I do the Dahmer book, and I thought, okay, that's a good idea. And I did the research, and I did the book, and I didn't think twice about it. And all of a sudden, the news media got involved, and they created a sensation. And all of a sudden, I became a product for them to buy and sell. And that's what they did. They marketed and sold me. So when the lawsuit went against me, beforehand, I was evil guy making a profit off of the emotions of poor victims' families. And then it turned into artist loses his right to publish. You know, like they changed it around. Freedom fighter. Whatever suited their media needs to sell newspapers and to get ratings was how they portrayed me. And so first it started with newspapers and it started with local news. And as I had an uncompromising point of view and I refused to apologize, all these candy boys running around, Andrew Dice Clay, I'm a nice guy. Why does everybody hate me? Because I make mean jokes. And you lose your audience. Then you get Jesse James when he cheats on his girl. All of a sudden he's crying like a baby on the air and he loses all his credibility. I'm the real thing. So I'm like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. You're not getting any apologies out of me. In fact, you guys are douchebags. And I'm going to pay for my legal fees by doing more Dahmer books. So my answer to them was, you want to harass me? You want to destroy my reputation on TV? Okay, fine. Now we're doing the further adventures of young Jeffrey Dahmer with his buddy Danny Quayle. Now we're doing Dahmer Zombie Squad. Now we're doing Jeffrey Dahmer versus Jesus Christ, the most offensive slugfest in the history of comics. And so I went for it, and I went after them too. I didn't take any crap. And I didn't just sit there and, oh, gee, why are you picking on me? Well, that's not where I'm from. So I went right back at them. And the talk shows just start booking you. They just start calling you up. They saw you on somebody else, you know. So first it was a closer look with Faith Daniels. That was the first one. And that was miserable experience. This experience is miserable. You're put on there as a gladiator. And then by the time I got on to Springer, you saw the machine in full motion. You know, you knew that they had their talking points. I was the official bad guy. They have plants in the audience. They have producers in the audience of these shows that lead the applause. And then I was winning the audience over with my argument. When I'm on Springer, people can see this on YouTube. You can see it on my spot where it's youtube.com/crime pays Hart, and that's Hart. And I've got my talk show appearances up there. And for the Springer show, one, they put my supporters behind, like almost behind the stage so the camera couldn't see them. Two, when I started winning over the audience with actual logic, oh, imagine that, logic. They turned down the applause in the mix when the show went on the air. Like when I went on Sally Jesse Raphael, I eviscerated that woman within a minute and a half of getting on the air and threw her hypocrisy in her face. They cleaned that up in the edit room as best they could. It was hilarious because they're telling me that I'm evil and I'm making all this money off of these victims' families. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm doing a comic book. I'm going to get $1.19 per comic. I sold 4,000 copies of the first printing. I sold 10,000 copies of the second printing. Ooh, big money there. Look out. So I said, hey, you're doing this right now. You're making these people cry on the air live. You're hurting them live so you can sell more orange juice. I work for a corporation was her answer. So therefore it's okay. That was her literal answer on the air. It's hilarious. I've got that on YouTube too. Hello?
Yeah, Sally Jesse Raphael was saying that?
Yeah, she was saying that her mouth was wide open. It looked like a fish out of water. She was like, da, for a good 45 seconds. It was hilarious. And then seeing them, how they cut it down so it didn't look like she was a stammering fool, that was hilarious. Larry King, though, was really well balanced. Larry King was cool. The Eon OJ people were very high-handed. There you have a woman who, on the air, she asked me, the host, sitting next to a stack of National Enquirers that were 2 feet high. I told her I researched my OJ books, because I did books on OJ, doing time with OJ and OJ's big bust out. We did books on OJ, and she's going, well, how did you research this? And I said, I researched this by reading Time Magazine and Newsweek and going to the library. She laughed at me, and she said, you read? Like, really? Really? I'm supposed to be some kind of an idiot that doesn't read because I have long hair? The worst kind of politically motivated dude is a politically motivated metalhead, let me tell you.
Hey, let me ask this. But now when you, let's say, Jerry Springer, right? When you're in the green room, are you there by yourself?
Well, here we were when we were on Sally Jesse. They had a woman who was supposed to be getting married to Richard Ramirez, the serial killer. And then they had a little 16-year-old hot little girlie. And this chick was this white trash broad, this trailer trash, peroxide blonde, looks like she'd been in some rumbles in a gang fight. They put them right next to each other, and this little girl is taunting this grown trailer trash. And we're in the green room, me and another guy who was doing serial killer trading cards out of New York, and we're just sitting there watching this because you're in the green room and you're watching the show while it's unfolding. And they're amping you up. They're telling you, stick to your point of view. You know, make sure you stand up for yourself. They want a brawl, and they're pushing for it. And so this woman beat the crap out of this kid, and the father of the child was sitting in the audience and didn't do anything. He had a big smile on his face while his daughter's getting punched in the face, which to me I thought was really sick.
You were on one of the shows where they were punching each other.
Yeah, one of them, and this was early enough in the game where Sally didn't put it on the air.
Okay.
She was very high-handed about it, and it's like, how can you be high-handed when you engineered that confrontation? You set it up. You had people that made that happen. And when the woman came to our green room who did the beating, like she came in the green room, and she got paid like $10,000 to be there. I'm not paid to be there. The other guy's not paid to be there, but she got paid like $10,000. And we're telling her, look, you just beat up a minor. You assaulted and battered a minor on camera. You better get out of here. And she looked at us like, oh, no. And she did. She got her stuff together, and she got her check, and she ran out of there. So I was like, you got to get out of here. You assaulted and battered a minor on camera. You got to go. You got to run. And the other guy's going, oh, yeah, you got to get out of here. And she did. She bailed, you know. These people at these shows, like I was on one called something with Bertice Berry, and she was a black comedian, and the show it was about Gacy and stuff, and, you know, these people bring me on thinking I'm pro-serial killer, and I'm not.
Right. I
am been a victim of violent crime. I've been mugged. I've been beaten up. I've had stalkers. I've had death threats. I've had loved ones murdered. No, I hate serial killers. They're garbage. I can't stand pedophiles, even worse, human garbage. So I'm not into that, but they would bring me onto these shows as if I was, because they wanted me to be. And then I would turn the tables on them every time. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Because those idiots only know what's on the cue card, Ed. When you go on the show, they do a pre-interview. And so the talking head host only knows what's on the cue card. So it's really easy to set these fools up.
Nowadays, like, to go on these shows, they pay about $1,000, you know, for the guests to come on. They fly to New York and stuff like that. But
not that I'm aware of. I've never been paid to be on any show, Ed.
Oh, yeah, go on. There's websites you can go on and look at auditions there all over. Even on Craigslist, if you go in the talent section on Craigslist. This is nowadays. But like on these shows like Maury, they're pumping you up in the back saying you can jump up and get in their face and you can get in their face. So they're pumping these guests, and a lot of them too. They cast these shows out of the ghettos too, as well. By the way, you know.
Well, back in the '90s, I was a crazy guy. During the making of my first film, The Garbage Man, and part of all this stuff that happened, my girlfriend was raped and murdered in a motel robbery.
Yeah, what's about that story? What happened with that?
This is when I'm in the middle of all the Dahmer controversy. I'm living in Champaign, Illinois, and I was making a horror film called The Garbage Man, which is about a black serial killer, and it's very much like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer from John McNaughton. And we shot it on 16mm film, and in the middle of shooting, my girlfriend, who I love very dearly, and I miss her to this day, she was raped and murdered in a robbery at the motel. My father was staying there, and he was the last person to talk to her alive before she got killed. And so it turned into a bit of a media crap storm, and I refused. I talked to the media long enough to get the killer caught, and I have spent, all the while I've been maligned as some kind of evil horror guy, I'm the guy who spent 10 years fighting to put a killer in jail. 3 different murder trials. He almost got out the second time. And it was hard work getting him and keeping him in prison because the justice system doesn't really care about justice. The justice system doesn't really care that much about the victims. It's all get him in, get it going, because the only reason my case had 2 other trials is because the Illinois Supreme Court decided to make it a test case.
So, like, your girlfriend was staying at this motel, and it was like a random act of...
She was the night auditor.
Oh.
She was the night auditor at a charter house inn, and so she wasn't supposed to really be dealing with the public, and there was a gentleman in there who had robbed the motel 2 weeks beforehand. And so she had just gotten back from vacation. She just moved in with me. She needed a job. My buddy had worked at the hotel for almost a year, so he was making the film with me. She went and took his job as the night auditor. And this killer kicked through 2 doors. The people left her as a sitting duck. I felt terrible about this because she told me she felt safe, but she wasn't. The people that own the charter house inn, they disconnected her safety net. They disconnected the security camera. The panic button on the floor was disconnected. The panic button she was supposed to wear around her neck was in the manager's desk drawer locked away. So she was a sitting duck, and this guy kicked through and made it through 2 doors. And raped her and shot her with a shotgun, killed her.
Oh, my God. Okay. Oh, my God. That's horrible. Okay.
So I went off the deep end after that. I lost my mind, and I went crazy. Throughout the 90s, I was known as the most dangerous man in comics because I was unhinged. I really was. The murder, because I'd had 2 other girlfriends raped before then, and one had been put in the hospital. One had been raped by a coworker. Another had been stalked and put in the hospital and nearly killed. And then my girlfriend, Michelle, was raped and murdered. So I lost it. I cracked. And the murder trials kept me crazy because you couldn't get on with your life. Every time I thought I was going to be able to get on with my life and put it behind me, another murder trial would show up. And it wasn't until the beginning of 2001 that we finished the last one. And then that bastard governor, I can't remember, it's Governor Ryan, one of the governors of Illinois, to distract from his corruption and his crimes, gave everybody on death row a life sentence. So now I got to worry about this guy getting out because he has a history of violence. He stabbed a guard in the face. And this is what my book is about. I actually have been writing that's how I met Burl Barr. I wrote for a true crime blog called In Cold Blog. And they brought me on to write about First Amendment issues, but instead this poured out of me all about her murder and about what happened with the trials. And also, in the middle of doing these murder trials, I'm being demonized on national TV. And I would go on Jerry Springer, and there'd be people in the audience saying, the victims' families, on the commercial break, I'm glad she's dead. I hope it hurt. I hope she died slow. And they were doing that to try to get me to freak out on the commercial break. Yeah. How'd you like that one, Ed? Enjoy that one?
Yeah, you got me, man. That's really because I watched some of those Jerry Springer stuff like that, and you did look upset. Now that I think back about it, and the whole thing did seem like a.
So I kept it private, Ed. I didn't talk about her murder. I didn't talk about the real life violence in my life. I was under fire from the press, especially after a Taste of Cherry. I did a book called Kill Image where I killed the founders of Image Comics, and they were terrified I was going to come kill them. Dummies. I did the Howard Stern versus Rush Limbaugh book. I did Rush Limbaugh Must Die. I faked my death. Yeah, I did Rush Limbaugh Must Die, the comic book. Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
Rush gave me a thumbs up on the air.
Really? Now, are these the comic books or are any of these books on like Amazon?
You can find them on Amazon. You know, these books were all printed in the 90s. I have some copies, so if people want to get, you know, the Howard Stern versus Rush Limbaugh book, I have copies available from the original printings in 1998, available at AmericanHorrors.com/store. And I have a lot of my products up there at AmericanHorrors.com/store.
Oh, boy. All right, we got what is Hart Fisher, man. Fascinating guy. He's the owner of AmericanHorrors.com. /store. Okay, so I think I'm going to have links to all this stuff on Amazon, though, too, up on the Opperman Report blog. Mixed martial artist, radio host of the Hart Attack radio show. We're going to be right back. This is that nice long break I was telling you about, bro. So we have a nice little break here. And when we come back, we'll bring on Kif Davis, man, see what he has to say and what he's been up to lately and who he's fighting with. All that kind of stuff. All right, guys, we'll be back right after this. Oh, boy, we are back with the Opperman Report, Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and simulcast on cjmarsradio.com and 365 Live. Tonight, for the first time, we're on our own Spreaker channel, the Opperman Report, Spreaker channel. We got coming up the next couple of weeks, we got some big guests. We got Ward Churchill's coming up. He's that college professor in Colorado over there who had all that big problems when he brought out his opinions about September 11th. And he's going to be talking about some books he's written. We're going to get into, I'm going to do like 10 shows with this guy because he's written all these books about the Baader-Meinhof gang and the Red Army faction in Germany. And so we're going to get into all of that. And COINTELPRO and a lot of stuff. I can hear somebody breathing. I think it's Cindy. Probably. Okay.
No, I was muted.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. And tonight we got with us Hart Fisher from Hart Attack, American Horrors at filmon.com, and you can hear the Hart Attack at jackaloperadio.com or soundcloud.com. And it's also on 1201beyond.com or iTunes. So the guy's pretty much everywhere. He was also telling us during the break that he's in a new movie, 2035, Forbidden Dimensions. He plays a bounty hunter. That beats up the hero. So maybe we'll get into Dog the Bounty Hunter in this chase he's doing after this mixed martial arts guy coming up. Then he's also telling us that he's acting in a new horror film called The Orphan Killer 2 with Ronda Rousey as one of the stars, and she's in that movie Expendables 3 that opens today. So that's pretty interesting stuff. Got a lot of stuff going on here with Hart Fisher from Hart Attack. That you can find out on jackaloperadio.com. Hey, Hart, you there?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, was that you breathing?
It might have been. I'm a heavy breather. I'm a big.
Man, you make me nervous.
I'm 6'2". I'm 230 pounds. I've been doing martial arts since 1987, and I got hair down to my feet. I'm a big, hairy man.
Yeah, I've seen the hair, man. I've seen the hair. But now, hey, what do you think about this story with this guy, this mixed martial arts guy that beat up the porn star here in Vegas, man? Do you know that guy?
I don't know him. I mean, I know a lot of people. I want to give a shout out to Gokor Chivichian and Jean LaBelle. They're actually where I met Ronda Rousey, and I got to meet her mother and work with her mother, Dr. Anne Maria DeMars, who is doing 7 Generation Games, which is a new video game that's designed to help teach Indians on the reservations math. And so I've been working with her and doing voiceover work on the game. I help them hit their Kickstarter goals. And so I just want to throw a quick shout out to Gokor. If anybody wants to train in MMA, he's got one of the best dojos in the world. A lot of fighters fight there. If you're a UFC fan, you've seen Gegard Mousasi fight. You've seen Karo Parisian fight. You've seen Manny Gambirin on The Ultimate Fighter. These guys are all there. You know, they all train there. I've known a lot of these guys for a long time, especially Karo and Manny. And Gokor is a good friend of mine. So go check out Gokor.com. And if you want to train. He's amazing.
Very cool. Okay, so then you still fight?
I just train for myself. I've never been a professional fighter. I always felt that it wasn't worth the damage to my body to entertain a bunch of idiots who don't care about me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't grind my body up. I know a lot of professional fighters, and plus, that world's tough. That's a tough, emotionally tough. Forget about just getting in there and taking a beating. It's emotionally a difficult thing to be involved in professional MMA. It really is, especially watching Rhonda get her crown and being around her as she's risen up and watching her rise. And hey, I hope Expendables 3 kicks butt today. I get to be in this horror film, The Orphan Killer 2, and she's in it. And a bunch of MMA people are in it. It's this serial killer slasher dude is killing MMA people because they're a challenge and he's a true predator.
Ah, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, and it's fun. That's one of the great things about living out here in Los Angeles. I'm a film freak, a movie freak, and I'm lucky enough to get to live out my dreams and get to do what I love with American horrors and do a horror channel and make horror films. I'm a lucky guy.
No, I hear you, man. I don't know how old you are. I'm 53 years old, but
45, baby, 45, and I'm getting younger every day because sin loves you. well, 45. Now listen, come see me in a few years, man. But the thing is, right?
Just to be creative, man, and be able to create things, and art and the film, it's the way to go. It keeps you young.
Even the radio show, I didn't know how much I would fall in love with doing radio until Josh invited me to do like a segment on his What the F show, and I love it. I mean, don't you like being on the air, Ed? Isn't it great being able to like affect people's lives and to do something?
Dude, I really do love it, and I'm just learning this. The show's not even a year old, and
wow.
Yeah, and I'm loving every minute of it, and you get to meet the most exciting, interesting people in the world.
Yeah, you really do, and you learn a lot. I mean, just from having the show, I've gotten to have some incredible guests on, and I've learned so much more. And also, from getting involved in local politics, I've gotten to know all the business owners of my local stores. I've made new friends. So, sure, I dealt with vandalism, I dealt with some bullying, but the friendships were far more important and far better than anything that happened in the negative.
Let me ask you a question. Now, you're a serial killer guy, right? You've been studying serial killers for a long time, and you have an interest in this, right? Are you familiar with the work of Dave McGowan?
No, I'm not.
Dave McGowan wrote these fascinating books. He wrote the book Programmed to Kill. And he also wrote the book Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, right? Now, I've had him on quite a few times, and he's really very popular right now. He's rising very quickly. Now, he said to me, he goes, "Hey, Ed, man, have you noticed that there's no more serial killers?"
Well, there are, but nobody's made an impression. I think that court TV and the 24-hour news cycle and the internet have destroyed the superstar serial killer notion. They're not new anymore, Ted Bundy in his day shocked audiences, and Manson shocked audiences in his day, and Ed Gein in his day. But now with the nonstop carnage that you see on YouTube, that you see from terrorist groups, that you see from drug gangs, that you see in your own neighborhood, and also the rise of shock TV. Like, I'm a Jackass fan, but I'm really glad I didn't grow up with that as a kid. Because these crazy kids that are doing stunts, instead of competing with the local crazy kid in your neighborhood, you're competing with the crazy kid from Bali or the crazy kid from some slum in Russia. And so we're in a different age where, man, people are just wrecking themselves and destroying themselves for nothing.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they used to be where they gave them like a fancy name, like the Night Stalker and all that.
Well, here we got the Grim Sleeper in L.A.
Oh, you have one right now?
Well, there's a guy who was a black serial killer who was patrolling, he was taking his victims from the black neighborhoods, and we know that traditionally law enforcement has kind of ignored the poorer people. Not ignored, but, they don't take priority. They don't have a voice. They can't lean on a politician and make him squeal, Here in Highland Park, because of what they've done with the ghost bike lanes and delaying police response times, the homicide rate has gone up in our neighborhood. Violent crimes have gone up in our neighborhood. All because of some hoity-toity idea for 1% of the population, this perfect utopian idea, and in the real world, people are dying, and people are getting hit by cars, and people are getting hurt, and so, I don't know, man. I've lost my train of thought.
Hey, okay, I got a question for you. It's going to throw you up even more. Because now you're in the comic book world, right? Now, what about these guys?
Oh, yeah.
Like Phoenix Jones, these guys that are running around L.A. like dressed up as superheroes, crime fighters, and fighting crime. Have you run across any of them guys or done anything with that?
I've never personally run into that, but it makes me laugh because I'm like, man, what a sad, desperate guy. Really? Your job is going to be to dress up like Superman in front of the Chinese theater, and you're going to be confused enough? I mean, I am a guy who has stopped muggings. I am a guy who has, heard someone screaming, jumped up, ran over, and did something about it. I'm that guy. But I grew up with comic books and this hero idea. It's part of my martial arts training. It's part of being a big gentleman and being a bouncer. You learn that you have some responsibility, and we as citizens have some responsibility, and we need to get up off our butts, forget about the Domino's pizza. Nobody cares if Miley Cyrus is twerking for some other rock star. It's all BS while the corporations crush us under their thumbs.
Hey, you know what? I want to bring in Keith.
Yeah, let's talk to Keith. I want to find out what's going down in Portland. Do you watch the programs on National Geographic Channel like Drugs, where they talk about the business of drugs? And they did a whole thing on Portland that was pretty brutal.
No, I didn't catch that one. No, what was it?
It's a show called Drugs Inc. And I really feel like this is a company owned by News Corp, owned by Rupert Murdoch. And so I feel a lot of times in these shows, they're almost like commercials for drug use.
I totally agree with you.
And I feel like they're talking, oh, the high's so good. No, it's not. Oh, the Robitussin high is so good. Got to get that Robitussin. No, you don't. It's a garbage drug for garbage people. These drugs are garbage, and the way it's rotting out our country. What is wrong with us that we need to have all these prescription drugs? What's wrong with our country when we need all these pills, when we need these Monster energy drinks? Why are 16-year-old boys running around with a Monster energy drink? They should have more energy than anybody can deal with at that age.
That's so true. And you notice how it's the 16-year-old girls that run around with the Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's garbage coffee. It's not even good coffee.
Not even good, yeah.
It's crap. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? This is garbage coffee, and you're paying $5 for your chai latte BS.
Okay, I'm going to try and bring Keith in, but I might lose everybody. So, guys, stand by. I might. But
Ed, no, I'm drowning. Ed, no.
It'll only take a couple of seconds to get you back. So let's see what happens. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Add to group. You guys still there? Oh, I think I got it. Everybody still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I'm here.
We did it. Okay, great.
All right. Let's get that little evil man on here.
Yeah, you know what, man? I love Kif Davis. He's a producer for the show and a real hero of mine. You know, like I said, because he's a guy, you know, with a history. He books these incredible guest for us like Hart Fisher. Hey, Keith, you there?
Yep. How's it going, man?
Hey, Keith. How are you? Say hi.
Now the big silence while we all crash in and talk over each other.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, so Keith.
So how's it going, everyone?
Going great.
Good, bro. So listen, we're on with Hart Fisher and Kif Davis. So Keith, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? I talk about you all the time. But tell the Opperman Report about yourself, a little bit about your history, even your mom if you want to talk about that kind of stuff.
Right on. I've just kind of grown up in a countercultural family. I was actually almost born in a Moroccan prison because my mom got busted with some keef, which is the way I got my name, Kif Davis. And for all the people out there that don't know what keef is, it's the powder substance off the marijuana plants that they press into hashish. And when she was pregnant with me, in the late 60s, she brought some keef down from the Reef Mountains in Morocco to her hotel in Marrakesh in Morocco with my dad. And then the entire hotel got raided because a lot of hippies and hash dealers were living in the hotel, so they went door to door basically and asked if my mom had anything to declare, and my parents actually had about 2 kilos worth of stuff, but my mom just brought about an ounce or 2 and gave it to them, so they didn't search the rest of the room. And basically, I would have probably been born in a Moroccan prison if it wasn't for her quick thinking and the fact that she pulled some Jedi mind tricks on them. And basically, they had her locked up for a couple days, and then they just basically let her go because they felt sympathetic towards her. Unlike the American justice system, basically were a little more sympathetic to her, you know. So
how many years ago was that?
And that was in 1969 when that happened, and I was born in 1970.
Yeah, because even then, a couple of kilos, you couldn't really make a living off that kind of. What were they bringing it back to the States?
No, they were just they just went up to the Reef Mountains, which is pretty much like the outlaw growing area of Morocco, where basically like the police and the military and people like that don't even go into, because it's such a outlaw region where they pretty much just like stay out of there and let the tribal people grow weed and get away with it, basically, you know.
So then you came to the States. What happened then?
My parents used to have head shops in the 60s and early 70s and stuff, and then my parents' head shop was actually burned down by it was in Ocean City, New Jersey, and they had a head shop called the Birdcage, and it was actually burned down by the son of the chief of police and the son of the mayor. So basically, I've kind of grown up in an environment where my family has been harassed and made bankrupt, different times throughout their life and stuff, and including like in the early 90s when we got a little weed sent from California, me and my mom, and then the police raided our house dressed as UPS people, just like basically how the whole Waco standoff happened too, was UPS tipped them off, and so definitely UPS is definitely linked in with the federal government a lot. So a lot of people don't know. Definitely don't send it that way.
Keith, a lot of people don't know that FedEx and UPS actually are handling a great deal of America's mail in rural areas, and they take on quite a bit for the government that nobody talks about.
Yep, and I'm sure they make a lot of money off of people's properties and stuff that get forfeited because of drugs and different things too, you know.
Yeah,
don't you think the TSA is all about catching drug smuggling and has nothing to do with terrorism?
Yeah, and basically just screwing with people more than anything else, you know, and because they haven't really caught any terrorists as far as I know, you know. Seems like most of the terrorists slip by, and a lot of them are actually aided by federal agencies and stuff like that, like the shoe bomber guy and all that other stuff, you know.
The bomber, it seems like he was escorted on the plane.
Oh, well, when you look at somebody like Johnson & Johnson had a policy where they were bribing doctors to prescribe drugs to people who didn't need it, specifically drugs for old folks and for people that were pregnant, and fatalities resulted. And instead of dealing with prosecuting the corporation of Johnson & Johnson or the doctors involved in this payola scandal, they took a bribe of, $2.2 billion.
When was that?
That was just recently. That was this year.
I didn't even catch that one, man.
This is the thing I'm all over on Hart Attack. I'm all about corporations like Walgreens and the various CVS have all been busted for illegally selling pain-killing medication out the back door. But instead of having the people that sold the pain meds out the back door being arrested, which is what you're supposed to do, they merely pay a bribe to the government and it gets swept under the gloves. But somebody like Keith's mom is involved in the drug trade and medical marijuana and marijuana period, and she gets arrested, harassed, and her life destroyed.
Yeah, Keith, is your mom...
Yeah, basically she was just a consumer for medical conditions and stuff, and that's pretty much... And I was a consumer for kind of medical stuff too, but also recreational, but my mom had MS and stuff, so I kind of got her back on smoking weed because she was having a lot of problems and stuff, and it actually helped her out a lot with MS and stuff.
Is your mom still alive now?
No, she's been dead for about a little over 10 years, and my dad died about 11 years ago, too.
Sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, tell us, what are you doing now, man? Like,
I do a lot of stuff at City Hall, and I've been, talking a lot about how there's basically little to no actual budget given to fight against child sex trafficking in Portland, and we're basically like number one, or in the number one to number two.
You really opened up my mind. Keith, you opened up my mind about pedophilia in Portland and how entrenched it is, and how it seems that there are people in the government that are protecting and hiding these pedophiles. You really opened up my eyes, especially about Portland. There was one point where my wife and I, we don't necessarily always love everything about living in Los Angeles, and we have looked at a couple places where we might move or move our business. And Portland was someplace I was looking at until I got to know you and started hearing about what's really going on behind the scenes. And then I saw the Drugs Inc. Special on Portland, and then I'm like, wow, do I really want to go to this place?
Yeah, it's pretty corrupt here. It's got a long history of human trafficking, child sex trafficking, drugs, corrupt government. Like the former mayor, Sam Adams, was involved with a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old, and he didn't get impeached or lose his job or anything. And also Neil Goldschmidt, who was the former Oregon governor and also a mayor of Portland, he got busted for having sex with a 14-year-old. So, and also recently I just saw this thing where the Multnomah County, which is Portland and a couple other places around here, like Gresham and a couple other cities locally, they were saying how they just passed some local legislation to fight against people who pick up underage prostitutes. And they said that now they're going to make it a felony. Well, it probably should have already been a felony, and they're all giving themselves like pats on the back for that and how they passed this legislation recently. But I was reading the article, and it said that these people are going to get like 30 days in jail. So basically you can pick up an underage prostitute, have sex with her, get busted by the police, and the only thing you're going to get out of it is 30 days in jail around here, which is totally ridiculous. Should be more like 30 years maybe.
Wow. Hey, how are you doing, Keith? I know you were in the hospital. You had an issue with one of your lungs. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I had a little operation. I actually had a collapsed lung, and my lung collapsed like 20%. So I had an operation done, and they drained a bunch of fluid out, and I've been doing pretty good ever since that. It was like I was basically in the hospital for a week, and I've been doing okay, but I am currently homeless, and I've been homeless for quite a while now, since February of this year. So,
well, wait a second. Why don't you give out your PayPal account? And
where can people help you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to help you, Keith. You know, I know a lot of the supporters at Hart Attack. Folks on the Opperman Report, Keith's been a guest on Hart Attack several times. He's been getting better every time he comes on the show. And he was introduced to me by Adam Air Williams, a prominent underground cartoonist. Where can people go to help you out, Keith? Where can people donate some money to you at PayPal?
I actually need to set up a PayPal account, but I was going to do that probably within the next week or two, and I do have a bank account, but if people wanted to get in contact with me, they could get in touch with me through like Facebook or whatever. It's Kif Davis in Portland, Oregon.
Well, I tell you what, guys. In the meantime, if you want to donate to Kif, you can donate to the Opperman Report at gmail.com PayPal account. Okay, Opperman Report, gmail.com, and just put Kif on a Kif. Okay, and I'll make sure he gets it. And then Kif, once you get set up a PayPal account, we'll do something next week too, because people have to understand that almost all the guests we've had on here, I'd say a good 60-70% of the guests have come through the work of Kif Davis, who does all this research. He found Hart Fisher tonight, recommended Ward Churchill, and just all these guests we've had. The people love the show so much, and Kif is a big part of the show and a big help for us here. So anything we do for him to keep him, get him indoors, And
I've known a little bit more about Keith from knowing his friend Adam, and I could say, Keith doesn't talk about. He's been through a lot of bad stuff, guys. He's a guy who's been on the front lines. He's put himself at risk with Cop Watch many, many years. This is not new for Keith. He's been involved in this his whole life. And so there's things about Keith and his past and what's been done to him, been done to his family, that are pretty deep, dark, and brutal. There's a reason why you're homeless, Keith. You're dealing with a lot of I almost did it. A lot of effed up stuff that I know you just slide it under the table, but it's okay. You dealt with some crazy, crazy stuff, man. And a lot of people that have contacted me about you, they're thinking about you. You're somebody that's out there in the public, so know that there's some people out there that care about you and want you to be better, want you to be healthy, and want you to have a good life, man.
Right on. Yep, I definitely have lived kind of a rough life, and I've had a lot of police repression and government harassment and all kinds of stuff. I've been beat up by the police for filming and stuff. Like, if you look up Kif Davis and just put the Portland Mercury, you can see that I was beat up by the police in 2003. Or if you just do a search for Pamela Snow White Davis and put in my name and the marijuana mama, you can see that, that my family's been under a lot of harassment for a long time.
And the government has no problem with that. Folks at home, I don't want you to think Keith is crazy, because he's not. There are still harassment programs by the government in place to this day. They are doing it. There are corporations that are paying people to harass people online and in life. This hasn't gone away. This isn't some conspiracy fantasy. These things are happening. And Keith has been a victim of this kind of organized harassment. You hear and you talk, COINTELPRO. But Keith is a guy who's been victimized by groups like that on behalf of the government. His family has been involved in trying to legalize marijuana for a very long time. So when Keith talks, this is a guy who's the real thing.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So, Keith, what are you working on these days, man? What do you do, Yeah.
I'm actually writing a book about Portland right now, and a lot of the corruption and a lot of the different stuff, and hopefully I'll have that done within 9 months to a year or so. But it's going to have a lot of different stuff, because Portland's really got a pretty interesting and really corrupt history and stuff dating back to like the Shanghai era, when sailors were getting shanghaied left and right and put on ships, and basically the police were involved in a lot of the shanghaiing going on in Portland, and like the British government at one point even said that they were going to stop letting British ships come to Portland because the epidemic of shanghaiing was so big here. We have like the Shanghai tunnels and a bunch of different stuff.
Keith,
like
let me
that.
tell folks at home, let me tell people what Shanghaiing means. Shanghaiing is like you're a guy in a bar, it's the turn of the century, and you're a dude drinking in a bar, and a trapdoor opens under you, you fall through a tunnel, and the next thing you know, you're now a human slave. you're now waking up on a boat. And this was a practice that was pretty big 100 years ago, and that's what Shanghaiing is. They grab you and you woke up in Shanghai. I just wanted to let people know what that meant.
Yeah, basically like maritime law back then, it pretty much basically made people that were sailors, they basically had less rights than even slaves and stuff. So it was a real form of human slavery that went on for a long time. And my one friend actually does have the PayPal account that if you wanted to send money to him, he definitely would pass it on to me. And it's his name's Chad Patterson. He's one of my friends that I've had for a long time. But his PayPal account is angelsofdeath.com at gmail.com.
At Gmail?
But
I'm going to donate to Save Keith at angelsofdeath.com or angelsofdeath at gmail.com. That's fantastic, Keith. I love you, man.
Right on.
It's so true,
Ay, ay, ay. Angels of Death. I'm dying.
Well, it's good we can all laugh with all the crap we've been through, because I know all three of us have had our share of different forms of torment through various things, from the government to different people and stuff,
That's why we're here talking, Keith, because we're the guys who've done it. We've been there. We lived it. We're the real thing. We're the thing they're afraid of the most. We're the thing that these idiots on the internet hate the most. We're the real thing. We really did it.
Yep, and we're still alive and talking and still doing it,
Yeah, so good, Hey, but like on an average day though, because I've seen some of your videos, you confront people on the street, and you also go into like the city hall and stuff like that. Do you go to the city hall council meetings all the time? Do you hit every one, or just once in a while?
Not everyone, but basically, like I was talking about, that mayor of ours, the former mayor, Sam Adams, who was a pedophile having sex with a 17-year-old. Yeah. He basically changed the whole way that the city council can be addressed in Portland, Oregon. Before, you could just come in, sign up, and talk about various issues, but basically every week someone was coming in and talking about how he was a pedophile and how he was having sex with a 17-year-old and that he needed to be impeached, and there was a big impeachment campaign against him and stuff like that. So he basically changed the rules of how you can actually address city council, which is, so he basically destroyed the democratic process to cover his own ass. And
that's not the only place it's happening, Keith. It's not the only place. It's happening here in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles City Hall. I've gone to City Hall meetings, and it's sickening. They are trying to restrict how you are able to communicate the political process. My favorite is when they're like, oh, you can't say anything that's unproductive. You can't say anything that's too mean. And it's like, hey, you guys are lying, stealing, and cheating and screwing over your constituents. What do you mean I can't come up here and express myself the way I want to express myself? It's a free country. They've been restricting how you approach City Hall, how you talk to your politicians all over America. Like here, like most of the time, they give you a minute now. You have 1 minute, and if you ask a question, they don't even have to really answer you. I've caught these people at City Hall lying on numerous occasions. I have caught LA Dot lying at neighborhood council meetings, and you catch them and you ask them a question, and then they're going to answer you, and they don't actually. You're not even allowed to rebut and go, hey, you're not answering my question. You just talked until I lost my minute, and so now I don't get to redress the fact that you didn't answer my question, and now you're getting kicked out because you got thrown out by force of one of those Portland City Hall meetings recently.
Yep, that was when I brought up the fact that G4S Security, who are one of the biggest mercenary armies in the entire world, how they do security for the city of Portland, and they also do security for TriMet, which is the public transportation system, and they also run the Israeli torture.
I'm sorry to stutter into you, Keith, but the thing that you blew my mind with is the security companies involved in making these torture dungeons in Israel for children. That's the thing that got me about this company.
Children get raped by these guys, and you know, Palestinian women are routinely raped, and children are routinely raped by G4S guards, and they put them in, you know, they put little kids in solitary confinement, and then they shackle their hands and feet until they confessed, and half the time it's just for, like, throwing a stone at a tank, and that can carry a penalty of up to 20 years. So,
disgusting.
You know, they're basically threatening these kids that they're going to sexually assault them or kill their family or hurt their family. And
while they're chained to the
also
floor.
Are raping and sexually assaulting children and their parents and stuff like that, too. And it's really sickening. And these guys, G4S, they are doing this stuff all over the world. They're a huge mercenary army. A lot of people haven't really heard the name G4S, but they've heard the name Blackwater and other stuff. But
Keith, didn't Bill Gates buy part of this G4 company? Didn't Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, supposedly altruistic foundation, buy up shares of this company?
Yeah, they actually did have a lot of money invested in G4S, and they recently got a lot of flack for that, so they recently divested in G4S within like the last 6 months or so, because a lot of people made a big stink about it. And also, BBC News, the British Broadcasting Corporation, they used to have G4S as their security, but through them, you know, through all the G4S stuff being exposed in the media and protests against them and stuff, they also canceled their contracts with G4S. And right now I'm doing the same thing, trying to get the city of Portland to cancel their contracts and TriMet, which are the public transportation system. If you want to check out a really good documentary that touches on a lot of this, you could check out the Vice News documentary, and it's called Superpower for Hire: Rise of the Private Military, and it takes a good look into the shadow industry of mercenaries and private military companies like G4S and Blackwater, and how they really are, you know, embedded into the system and doing a lot of security, and basically how they're taking, they basically go through and handpick a lot of their people straight from the army. So a lot of the best and the brightest, or the best soldiers and stuff, are actually getting hired by G4S and Blackwater. And so it's basically like dumbing down the military too, and just turning these guys into just total mercenaries for hire and stuff, you know.
Well, wait.
I'm also trying to get the city to divest in HSBC, and HSBC were fined $1.9 billion for laundering money for Mexican drug cartels and Middle Eastern terrorist groups. And you could find some articles in Rolling Stones and Reuters, New York Times, Huffington Post, and other things detailing that. And there was a whistleblower who was working for HSBC, and his name is Everett Stern. You could find a bunch of different clips on YouTube and all over the internet about him. And he's a former member of HSBC, and he was also a former United States congressional candidate, and he blew the whistle on the fact that HSBC were laundering money for Mexican drug cartels and terrorist groups. And actually this last week I went in front of City Hall and I confronted them about G4S and HSBC. And here in Portland, we really don't have that big of a murder rate. We have an average of about 30 murders a year, which is pretty small for a city the size of ours, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
But we do have about 90 to 100 drug overdoses, which are usually from heroin and Mexican heroin. So I talked in front of the city council this week, and I said, you know, how can you guys do business with these guys who money launder for Mexican drug cartels? And these guys basically, you know, because Mexican drug cartels, they're not only involved in drug trafficking, they're involved in human trafficking, child sex trafficking, extortion, murder, kidnapping, all sorts of stuff. And they basically contribute to, you know, addiction, suicides, all kinds of stuff that are related to drugs, people losing their job, people getting evicted because they spent all their money on heroin instead of paying the rent, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I asked the city council how they can do business with people like that and have a clear conscience, and I basically have called them out on their moral inconsistencies and said that, you know, you guys need to drop your contracts with G4S and HSBC, and they basically look at me like I'm crazy. And, you know, I ask them, like, hey, can you guys got a response? Is any of this stuff I'm saying to you like sinking in? And they're just basically like, they won't answer me. They're like, oh, we're just here to listen to you. So
I've watched the videotape, man. I've watched the videotape, and I've actually been to my city hall meetings, and these guys freeze up like glacier blocks of ice. They just look at you like you're some kind of thing that arrived from another planet. Their conscience and their guilt is so on their face, yet hidden behind a mask. It's like right there in the room. They know what they're doing is wrong. They know what you're talking about is wrong. And the mask comes down, and they just sit there silently. You know why they're silent, Keith? They're silent because they have no reply to your truth.
Well yeah, definitely.
Keith,
they definitely are.
Keith, when you come in, do they recognize who you are and say, oh, no, here he comes again?
Oh, yeah. If you go and look at this recent city council meeting that I went to, they actually saw that I was going to be on the roster talking about stuff. So they usually don't start their meetings off with like a whole set of rules. but when I'm on the roster, they like start saying, okay, you can't name names. Here's this other stuff that you can't do, and blah 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 blah. You know, they see I'm coming, and they realize, like, well, we're going to try and silence this guy. And actually, it's not against city council rules to name names of convicted criminals, like the guy Ian Andrew Gilderson, who I've named a couple different times in City Hall.
Keith, I'm going to give you a tip for dealing with these guys.
You know?
I'm going to give you a little tip for dealing with these guys. You know what's fun? You're going to have to start showing up. You put your name in to speak, then decline to speak. You start messing with them. You see, these guys are up there all day, every day, and we can mess with them. They work for us. We sign their paychecks. They are in power only to represent us, the citizens of America. That is their whole entire job. So it's time for you to start messing with them. Sign up to speak, hang out, videotape them. Don't talk. Do it several times. Start playing the COINTELPRO games back on them. Because they're easy, they're soft, they're bullies, they're nothing, they're bullies. They're easy to turn it on. So instead of you being the guy who speaks every time you sign up, show up, sign up to speak. You don't have to speak, then disappear, go away. Let them be worried about you and have other people start showing up to talk about what you want to talk about. You may sign up and someone else will sign up too, and they're going to talk about what you were going to talk about, and you don't say anything, you just videotape it. You got to start tag teaming these people. You got to start organizing with your friends and whoever to start working them instead of letting them constantly change the rules on you.
I've actually tried to get other people to speak, but it seems like no one else wants to tackle this stuff.
It's hard. It's hard, man. You know, other journalists are a great place to start. Other reporters, mostly it's young people. Find people, and they don't have to go all the time. Bring them up once, maybe twice. You know, we could even make a game of it. It could be a whole thing. We raise money on Kickstarter, so we're going to pay people to go to these meetings, and we're going to have our paid political activists.
Yeah, kind of like the picket lines you see these days. A lot of them aren't actually there because they are supporting unions or this, that, or the other thing. They're actually hired through temp agencies that pay them to go out there with a picket sign. Like a lot of people see these guys holding signs for, you know, union rights or this, that, or the other thing. But what they really don't realize is a lot of the times that there's only about 5 or 10 people that are actually there on their own free will, and a lot of the other people are there, like, hired by temp agencies by the unions. So it's pretty interesting.
We should start
I learned
doing
that through being a temp worker.
You know what, man, Keith and Ed and the listeners of the Opperman Report, we should start doing that. Why don't we do that? Why don't we take somebody and pay them $10 to get on the web for an hour once a week and troll people over these politics? Why don't we take the playbook from the people that are putting us under the ground, and why don't we turn it back on them?
Hey, not a bad idea, but real quick, guys, I got to read some ads before the show's over. I've been a little bit lacking in my responsibilities here.
That's a great show, Ed. It's a great show.
Thank you, my friend. Oh, no, listen, I mean, you guys are going to stay on, right? We're going to do an after show?
Heck yeah, as long as I got time to get another beer.
Yeah, me too. I know. Okay. Yeah, no, we got plenty of time. Okay, so name a couple of our sponsors here is Pacific West Bamboo. Brother, okay, let's see. Because I must have closed up my notes here. But I'll be real quick. Okay, here we go. Pacific West Bamboo. Oh, man. My sponsor's going to kill me tonight, guys. And I'm wasting less time.
Yep, they're located out here in the Portland area, and Amanda and Rob actually helped me out a good amount. Once I got out of the hospital, they let me stay at their house for a little while and paid for like 2 nights in a motel for me too. So
you can't beat that, man. Pacific West Bamboo, Amanda over there at Pacific West Bamboo, they can and do ship nationwide. Okay, here we go. Ta-da, got it. Okay, their number is 503-839-8126. You can reach them at demroots.com, and their Facebook page is called Pacific West Bamboo, and they're serving Portland, Oregon, but they can do ship nationwide. Then we also got Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. Infinity Home your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models, and renderings, and more. And then don't forget, we got this, it's hard to describe, but their website is Revolucion, Revolucion-Mexicana.mx/wetback-world. Okay, and they have a book about their family and their loved ones back in the United States, and they have webinars about how to make authentic Mexican jewelry. And if you just Google modern Mexican women, you can find their websites and all their services that they're offering here. You got to work on that link though. There, the Mexican women. Okay, guys, we're here with Hart Fisher and Kif Davis. One thing I wanted to point out too is, you were talking about before about Blackwater. Back in 2003, my partner was NYPD Harbor Aviation. He was a NYPD scuba cop. And one of the things he used to do to make money on the side was recruit guys for Blackwater, because they wanted guys that were former Navy SEALs and stuff like that. But the kind of guys they wanted were guys who got kicked off the police force, who had DUIs and had domestic violence charges. They wanted guys that had nothing to lose. Those are the kind of guys they were looking for.
It makes them easy to control, Ed. You can kind of control them. They're desperate. They're always in trouble, so they always need a big daddy to bail them out. And also, they're going to do the effed up stuff that you want them to do, the stuff that requires lower moral standards.
You know what? Man, that is, you're right on target, bro. Because one of the things I've always noticed is that when a bomb goes off in the Middle East, the value of oil that's pumped in Oklahoma or Texas rises. So if I owned an oil well or an oil company in Texas or Oklahoma, I would want bombs going off in the Middle East all the time. And if you had these kind of people working over there, they could kind of make that kind of thing happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's all a game that these guys are playing. Once you're alive for any length of time and you read, you just got to read it and follow the money, guys. It's not like these people are hiding it. They're not hiding it. It's right out in the open, you know.
Did you guys hear about the psyops that they were doing actually in during like the Iraq occupation? There was some congressmen that were coming to Iraq, so basically they went out and did a bunch of psyops to make it look like the war on terror was a lot worse than it was, and then there's, you know, they just had a bunch of their own soldiers going out in the desert, blowing up things and shooting off guns, so it sounded like there's actually a war going on.
Keith, when you've got 130,000 Americans dying from the prescription drugs that their doctor has prescribed to them, why don't you tell me who's the terrorist? Who's the real threat to America? Because how many people have died under terrorist acts in America? They certainly, when you take about that, you look at 120,000, 130,000, 110,000 over the course of 5 years, you're talking about over 500,000 people killed by drug companies, but there's no militarization of our police to go after Johnson & Johnson, to go after Pfizer, to go after the drug companies that have bought out and co-opted our government. There's nobody breaking in their doors. There's nobody kicking in. My father died from his prescription drugs. They killed him. They rotted out his guts. So do I have a personal fight in this? Yeah, I do. It's real personal. I miss my father. He was a great guy, and he'd be alive today if perhaps he could have smoked marijuana for his pain problems rather than taking the pills that killed him.
Hey, you know what, guys? We're down to wait, hold on. We're down to the last 3 or 4 minutes. So real quick, Keith, give that PayPal account one more time. We're gonna drop Revolution Radio in a few minutes, but we'll still be on CJMars.com, CJMarsRadio.com, and also Spreaker. But Keith, give your PayPal real quick.
Yep, it's my friend's PayPal, and it's angelsofdeath.com@gmail.com.
Okay, Hart, real quick, what do you want to promote?
You guys can find me on Twitter, Hart_Fisher. You can find me on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hart Attack Radio. Watch American Horrors for free at FilmOn.com. For those that have a hard time phonetically, that's FILMON.com.
Okay, good night, Revolution Radio. We love you. Don't forget, there's a new YouTube channel. I'll have the new link up on my blog, The Opperman Report. Don't forget, it's a listener-sponsored station. Go to freedomslips.com and click on the donate button. Good night, I'll see you next week. But we're still on CJ Mars Radio.